Cortina 2026 is coming this year, and you are downhill world champion.
I do believe in friends on a powder day and a training day.
Do you use something in particular for your fur to get the shine?
I finally had found some like adult figures who knew what they were talking about in ski racing, who were like, yeah, that's okay to be super intense about it too.
And I have shivers right now. Welcome to What's the Point with Mikaela Shiffrin, brought to you by Stifel Financial, where success meets success. Nugget, Nugget, you wanna join the party? Or, oh, there she is. I've been talking to your cats. Great, we're recording. Woohoo, so exciting. I am so excited to have my Stifel US Ski Team teammate and friend, Breezy Johnson, on the podcast. Breezy is one of the fastest downhill skiers in the world. And this year she was world champion. So the fastest downhill skier in the world, 2-time world champion, because we also won a gold together in the team combined, 8-time FIS Alpine World Cup podium athlete, a threat at every single downhill race. So she has had she's had a long journey just to this point, and not even finished, just getting started. And after every setback, after every injury, she's come back stronger. She's fierce. She's resilient. She's one of the hardest workers I know. So Breezy, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel like very honored to be part of this.
Well, I'm so excited. And this is like, when this releases, this is one of the first that I've actually recorded. So when this releases, it'll seem like we've been doing it, but I'm really excited to have you. And I would love to start with this segment, the Faster.Always rapid fire, because one of Breezy and my shared sponsors is Atomic, and this segment is sponsored by Atomic. You want to just dive right into it? What is your favorite downhill track?
I try not to have a favorite because I like to be good at all of them. So I try not to have a favorite.
I feel like I've heard you say that before. That's a great answer.
I like aspects of all of them, but I try not to have a favorite. When I joined the team, there were certain athletes that had a specific favorite, and they were kind of only good at those ones. And I was like, I want to be good at all of them. So
that's so fair. Do you have like one specific feature of a course or a hill that like lights you up at all? Or is it the same thing about terrain features? And
there's a few that I find like really interesting. Like there's like this, like the corkscrew in Crans-Montana, like into that bowl, that I find really interesting. I really like what we call like the Super G section in Val d'Isère, when you come out there and you're kind of like going over those rolls.
Yeah.
I really like the forest in Garmisch because it's just so fast. There's a lot of places that I really like.
That's really cool. You just like, that's a great reminder for me too, because I've gotten to the point in my career with like some races maybe I don't have favorites, but I have like least favorites, and that can really get in your head.
Yeah.
So, good point.
Yeah, for sure. There's like, thankfully for me, there's a couple places that I don't like that thankfully we don't go back to, like Bad Clan-Kirchheim. I was like, I don't know that I like this place. It's supposed to be fun. But we also just had one really bad race there. So This isn't to say that Bad Clan-Kirchheim is bad, but I had a bad experience there and I was like, I don't like it. And then we never went back there. And so I'm continued to be like, I don't like it there. But I get to have that benefit because we don't go back there.
This is perfect. It fits great.
Yeah.
Do you have any race day superstitions?
So many. I have to knit a new headband for every race. Megan remembers me at World Champs frantically knitting a new headband before the downhill race, and then I had to do another one for the team combined. So it's not so much that I don't like that once I've worn it, then it's like burned. So then I have to like knit a new one in order to
you have to have a fresh one. Do you start it on race day?
Typically no.
Okay.
What happened at World Champs was that I was the one that I wore at the finish of the team combined, I had planned to make for the downhill, and then I was going to make a different one, but I messed it up. So the night before, I realized that it was too small and it didn't fit on my head, and I had to knit a whole new one.
Oh no. So we need to get you like a Breezy head mannequin.
I have a head mannequin I carried around with me. It's right here. But you have to
do you knit it on your own head? All right, girl. Don't make me look stupid on my podcast.
You have to test it while you do it. And I just was going too fast. It was my fault. Well, I'm also dumb because I knit a whole headband and it did fit.
You're like, this looks great for a 3-year-old.
Yeah. I was like, if I have any friends that are 5,
this will be perfect. Well, there's lots of people, just doesn't really suit you for a superstition. It all went well though.
But there's a ton of other superstitions. Yeah. I have to do my hair in a fishtail. I have lucky socks. There's a whole thing.
Does the fishtail take you a really long time? I've always wondered this.
No, it takes me like 7 minutes. I schedule out an extra 7 minutes on race day to do my hair in hospitality.
That works. Whatever floats your boat. You're fitting in a lot of time consuming things. So
yes, I waste a lot of time on superstition.
I wouldn't call it a waste. I mean, you got gold, so I wouldn't call it a waste, but it's pretty impressive because I feel like I'm frantically running around with my head cut off on race day. Like I'm late for everything all the time. I don't remember the course.
Yeah, but
I don't know where I am.
We have the opposite experience because we are like, oh my gosh, I inspect at 7:00 and then I don't race until 11:00. I have 4 hours. What am I going to do?
It's true. It's true.
Because I've seen you napping in hospitality at speed races. So don't tell me that you're always running around like a chicken with your head cut off.
You know what?
At speed races, sometimes you're chill.
I had a 90-minute nap. I had a full REM cycle in Lake Louise one year before the race. I had dreams.
Was that the year you won?
It is.
So see, you need a petition fist for longer distance between inspection and the race so that you can get a full REM cycle and then win every time.
Yeah, we either need to have like 6 hours to get everything done or we need to just go. But it can't be none of this like 45-minute nonsense. That doesn't work. What's your first memory? The rapid fire is going great. This is going to take up the entire podcast. Do you have a first memory on skis?
Yes. Well, my first memory on skis is when I was really young. I was at Big Sky, I believe, and my whole ski and boot fell off of the chairlift. So that's probably my first memory on skis. First race memory, sticking my stuffed Foxy into my purple bib snow pants and being like, I'm ready to go.
Oh. Well,
I was really into my stuffed fox.
Those are two Foxy. Very opposite memories. How did we get to the point where a boot came off your foot?
I mean, I was pretty young. We were all pretty young. Our parents were trying to find boots small enough for us. I don't really totally remember exactly why I was too small, but I think for some reason I hadn't buckled it. And then my mom reached down to try to buckle it and then
fell right. I mean, you also want to get boots that are kind of big enough that you grow into them because you don't want to be getting boots every 3 months. Yeah. Okay. It's fair. It's fair.
Plus, as a younger sibling, they were probably hand-me-downs from my brother. Totally.
Absolutely. You know what? That makes a ton of sense, actually. Now that I think it was just tough to picture. It's fine. What's one thing about our sport that you want people to understand better? Like a top thing.
I guess I would just say like we are talking Formula One on skis with knives, big giant knives on your feet. Just think about it like that and you'll realize that it's a lot more impressive on ice. Think more ice rink than snow field.
Yeah, I do think about that a lot. I'm like, it is like the impact of, not that we want to talk about crashing that much, but the impact of crashing in a downhill or a super Jeep or honestly a GS or slalom from that matter is like, it's having that force without a car. Yes. And we're just like, hey, you want to put some plastic guards on your arms. And in downhill, you're not even allowed to. So it's kind of funny. Yeah. They're like, no,
I mean,
only skin.
remember that we're hitting those plastic gates at 80 miles an hour with our bare skin. Like, I dare most people to go out and hit plastic.
I dare you.
Even like the breakaway is nice, but like, you get bruised. You are severely bruised after hitting those
for the
gates.
entire season. Have you ever had the elbow calluses build up, like the knobs on your?
Yeah. I have like scars on my elbow.
Yeah, same. And like just ever-present dry skin from constantly rubbing it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Also, just like being in the mountains all the time, all my skin is dry.
Yes. Also that. You got a go-to snack on the mountain?
Pre-race, I love blue Sour Patch Kids. I'm a big sugar fiend.
What's with our team and the blue things? I feel like the tech girl, they're all like drinking blue drinks. And
well, I would prefer
does it make your
red
tongue
Sour
blue?
Patch Kids, but they don't. Oh yeah. What I've wondered is sometimes like I eat them pretty close to when I run in downhills. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, if I stick my tongue out at the bottom, is it still going to be blue? And then everybody's like, why is your tongue blue?
Why is your tongue blue, girl?
Like, yeah.
That's awesome. Do they wake you up or just yummy?
They do wake me up a little bit. I don't really drink a lot of caffeine in general, so sugar really gets me going.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Everybody look out for when Breezy sticks her tongue out. All right. If you were an animal, what would you want to be?
An owl. Silent, swift.
All right. Let's get into deeper things.
But first, a word for our partner, the Share Winter Foundation.
I know firsthand that no athlete gets here alone. Champions don't rise without support, coaches and teammates, and a whole community behind them. That's why I'm so proud to support Share Winter Foundation. They're giving thousands of kids the chance to click into skis or strap on a snowboard for the first time ever. For these kids, it's not about medals. It's about confidence and belonging and a joy for being in the snow. Every athlete has people in their corner, and every kid should too. Learn more at sharewinterfoundation.org/MickGives.
This is an easy first one. So growing up in Jackson, Wyoming, and you live there, you spend most of your time there still? Yeah.
Yeah. I was born in Jackson. My parents lived over the hill in Idaho, but we went to school and everything in Jackson. So I claim both, but Jackson.
Okay. I see you posting so much in the mountains, like hiking, diving into freezing cold water. What about Jackson and what about the environment? What has made it so unique and special in your life?
It's really beautiful up there. I mean, I was always very outdoorsy as a kid. I just like love the outdoors. I think my like only other dream besides like being a ski racer was just like becoming like a native settler and just living off the land forever, being like a hermit kind of in the mountains. So yeah, I mean, the outdoors has always like really moved me. And I think it's part of why I became a ski racer, that I love the mountains so much. But being from Jackson, I mean, it's gorgeous there all the time. So.
Yeah. It's pretty hard not to spend like time in the mountains when it's that beautiful. Do you ever see yourself like actually moving away?
Now somewhat. Like I really love Europe and like the more combo of like cities like kind of in the mountains and the abilities to like live there. And yeah, I don't know if I want to have kids. So I feel like mountain towns are a little bit hard without kids because a lot of things revolve around kids. But so I don't know as much, but Jackson will always have a huge part in my life and heart.
Yeah, for sure. It's so beautiful. It's similar to growing up in Colorado. It's like, maybe this isn't where the rest of life happens, but it's going to be a big part of it. But that's really cool. It looks amazing. I've never been to Jackson, but I definitely live vicariously through your photos. And I will never dive into the cold lakes at the top of the mountain, just in case you were wondering about that.
I was totally wondering.
So we met when we were 11, at 12, 11,
yeah.
12 at Whistler Cup, I think.
We were both 12, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe we were both 11.
Yeah. Some 11, 12. And we've both skied on atomics our entire racing career. I had just probably switched to skiing on atomics at that point. Like right before we met. I have kind of a first memory of you. What's one of your first memories of like that experience, Whistler Cup, not meeting me, but like our first experience racing together?
Well, there was like a few. So one, we not only met at Whistler Cup, we roomed together. We just, out of whatever it was, like 15 kids, they were like, randomly, these two are going to go together. And so, we roomed together. So I think my first memory of you was like coming into our room and you were like reading a book and it was like this book all about light. I don't know. There was a light bulb on it. And like, you were very like early to bed, like bookish, like pretty quiet. And then I remember we would like time trial. So we time trialed to see who the best was. And like you obliterated us. Like I cannot explain. Like we came down because we didn't see the times while we were running. And then we came back and it was like, and they literally like posted a printout of the times. And it was like Mikaela Shiffrin, 53.7. Then the next person, 56.9, like at best. Maybe it was like 59. Like she won by like 5, 6, 7 seconds. And then I wasn't the next person. Let's be clear on that. So I was like, oh man, I got my work cut out for me. And you like just fully like, there was no like, oh yay, like I won by so much. You were just like back to work. And I was like, this is awesome, but also incredibly frightening.
Oh God. Well, okay. So that actually lines up. I mean, not that story, but like the vibe, the mentality of it was my memory of that period of time was feeling not always entirely understood by people for sort of the intensity I had around the sport and in improvement and, you know, setting goals and, you know, not setting goals that were even necessarily realistic, but like very lofty. And I don't know, that kind of ambitious mindset. And I thought a lot about this was like, everybody loves the sport, but I feel like I have a different, like I'm not in it to look at the timing sheet and see what's there. I just feel like there's so much more to do. And you're looking at your idols and you're like, I want to get closer to that skiing sooner, faster. Like, yes, I'm only 12, but I had so many people ask me like, what's your rush? And I'm like, I'm not rushing. I just am so excited to get there, like to be there. So anyway, this was one of the slalom, the slalom race before the second run. I remember that something happened that maybe you didn't finish. I don't remember exactly.
I think I maybe hiked or something.
Maybe hiking, something that like took you out of the. Yeah. I remember you came up to me and you're like, this was one of the, like, you were upset. And I was like, obviously what's wrong, not what's wrong, but like,
you were like, I don't care about my own result. What's wrong with you?
Like, are you okay? And you're like,
I'm winning.
You're like, I just really was targeting this race. This was like a big goal for me. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Like the fact that you're feeling this kind of disappointment. Of course, you're going to be disappointed as an athlete anytime you don't, quite meet the success that you were hoping for. But as a kid, as a 12-year-old, it's so easy to be like, let's just go inside and have snacks and have a hot chocolate. Let's go like rip around the mountain. It was more like, no, like this race environment is what I want to be in. And I didn't quite meet the standards that I set for myself. And I'm really upset about it. I was like, yes, girl, you're speaking to me. Like, I'm so sorry, but this is so cool that you are at this level where you're thinking about it like that. I don't know. I really related to that. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that moment was like very turning for me too, because I had been at the time, like I was like struggling a little bit with some of my coaches because they were like, Breezy, you need to have more fun. Like, Breezy, you're so serious all the time. Like, Breezy, you get so wound up about these things and they don't matter. And like, I was like, I felt at the time, I was like definitely like considering like kind of caving into that and being like, okay, well, this is what like the experts around me are saying to do. Like, and then I would have these like races where I like didn't perform well. And I was like, what, like that's all I want is to like perform well. And I remember like meeting you and you were like, yeah, like it, like you were also on that same level and we had that same mentality. And it was just nice to see somebody who agreed with that mentality. And like, as I've gotten older, like there's totally different mentalities for different athletes, but different kids get good in different ways. And some kids get good by not taking things too seriously and like, you know, being relaxed and chill and having fun. And if your kid or you are like that, totally lean into that. I'm not saying that. But if you do have a kid who's more intense, who's like pushing more and like also is like, you know, this is like, I want to like work on this process and better myself and like find that sort of accomplishment. And they maybe don't necessarily, sometimes those kids don't always seem like they're having fun all the time, but that doesn't mean that they're not finding like satisfaction. And you were like, oh yeah, like totally. Like I feel the same. Like I'm not always having like fun, like outwardly, I'm not like giggling, laughing, like that type of person. But you were like, I also find deep satisfaction from improving myself. And you were like, I totally respect your frustration at having a bad day. And it's not like, oh, I should just like get over this and like go powder skiing in the woods and like have fun again. Is like, no, you can like be upset about that, go like work on yourself and like figure it out. And it was nice to like see somebody else like that. And that was definitely like a turning point in finally having somebody who was like, and seeing somebody, and also in your family and Eileen. And I remember talking to her and her being like, oh yeah, you can totally take this sport seriously. And I was like, okay, like, so these coaches, they're telling me that like, I'm just like this crazy kid who takes everything too seriously, aren't necessarily correct. Cause I finally had found some like adult figures who knew what they were talking about in ski racing, who were like, yeah, that's okay to be super intense about it too. And that was like a big turning point for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And important to have people guiding you that follow your lead. Like you said, it's not pushing kids to be one way or the other. It's like passion comes from wherever it comes from for any number of reasons, and like follow the lead of your passion. You don't need to push it one way or the other, but that was cool. You are one of the hardest working athletes that I've ever met. And you have been this entire time. But more than that, you have faced some serious challenges in your career. And you've had injuries. You've had a suspension after whereabouts filing issue with USADA. And I want to talk about a lot of these experiences, but first I just want to quickly touch on the suspension or the sanction, and to help more people understand the layers of what we do and what's required from us as athletes, as professional athletes, in a clean sport system. And this is really, really key. Your suspension had nothing to do with substance issues. And that's what people really need to understand. It's plain and simple that, and you can just jive in or correct me when you want, but there were basically 3 instances where your calendar or your whereabouts weren't up to date with your actual current location. So when USADA came to randomly selected you for a doping control test, they just weren't able to find you. And that's 3 times in a 12-month period. And keeping in mind, like, I've missed a test because I went to the grocery store unexpected and didn't update my USADA. Like, that's how easy it is to like, life happens. And that's how sort of diligent we need to be with updating our whereabouts and making sure our calendars are up to date with our exact location, really 24/7, as long as we're competing.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a couple pieces there. So like, for one, right, if you get caught for a doping violation, you get to like explain your rationale to WADA and USADA. And basically with whereabouts filing failures, there's like a minimum sentence. So think like, you know, with doping failures, like they can give you anything from 0 amount of time all the way to like 8 years or a lifetime ban in theory, right? Like, but they like, you get to explain what happened and all that sort of stuff. With a filing failure, as soon as they say that, as soon as they determine that you were even 1% negligent, that you didn't. So for me, like, I've been super open about this. Like, there were challenges that I ran into with the system. So there was a flaw on the app for one of mine. I was texting the wrong number for one of mine. So at the time, they would text you like where you said you would be for the next day. And so I was responding to that text message to that to that number. And then that turned out to be the wrong number. Well, it's not like their number is like widely available or known. And so I didn't know that at the time. So I was like, I've been updating them. Like, I'm updated. And then it was like, no, you're not, because you actually have to update this other number. And they were like, well, you should know the other number, even though it's not on our website and we don't like have information sessions. And I totally understand that. But it's also a challenge within the system to like educate people and like have knowledge about them, about where you are and those pieces. So even before my third missed test, which also like, I mean, it doesn't matter. I understand, like, you know, it was 3 in 1 year, but those are the only 3 tests that I've ever missed. There's plenty of people that have missed a dozen tests across their career, but as long as they never receive 3 within a 1 year time frame, it's fine. And like, I understand like why that is. I also know that, like, you know, in the past, like before Lance, I have heard of high level people that got 3 in a row and then they just wiped either the last one or all 3, and we're like, this is fine. So like, you know,
exceptions have been made.
Like, exceptions have been made, and then there are some people even at the top of the sport who aren't in their registered testing pool, which means they don't have to put in their whereabouts. They're not tested outside of competition. At the time that I received my filing failures, there were athletes that were better ranked than me in every event that were not put into their country's pool. And that's the country's choice. The US has certain criteria. They put certain athletes in, they leave certain athletes out. And other countries do it differently. So I know that, like, you know, there are other countries that have higher standards and put more people ranked higher into the testing pool in their countries than the US does. So I'm not saying that the US is like the gold standard, but this varies across countries. It varies from testers, because as long as a tester will meet you, you won't receive a missed test. So I've known people that were, you know, the same distance away from a tester that I was, and on their third test, and the tester met them, and then it's fine. So it's a very complicated system. I don't know of an athlete that's been in the testing pool for a long period of time who doesn't have at least one missed test. It's happened to a lot of people. Sometimes they call you, sometimes they don't. And it is an integral part of the sport. And I think a lot of athletes, like, they want them to be able to find them. Like, that's what we all want. Like, I was never trying to avoid the testers, but, you know, that is how the cookie crumbles. And I do hope that particularly that FIS could set a standard and say that anybody ranked in the top 30 in any discipline must be tested by and must be in their registered testing pool. And I would like to see that, because I do think that having a lot of high level athletes outside of the registered testing pool, outside of it's more often on non-Olympic years, is kind of a weird system to me. And it does sort of give the impression of like, you can do whatever you want in the summer, and like, because we're not going to test you. And that feels a little bit wrong to me. So I'd like to see that from FIS.
And even random tests during the season, at races where I've had a random test from USADA operated by, the agency that represents WADA, but it's a USADA test, and they show up the night before a race at 8 p.m. And I'm like, what you're saying, that there are some athletes who have maybe even a better ranking or a top 30 ranking who, you would think that everybody's subject to the same requirements, and not everybody is. And you're like, wait, so you've never been tested at 8 p.m. the night before a race as a random test? Like, that was an extreme stressor that, it's like, but okay. Anyway.
And it's like another thing. You don't get to sleep like as soon. Like, this literally happened to me in Sun Valley the night before the downhill. I'm like having dinner with my boyfriend, and I get a call, and they're like,
you're like,
we're here. And I'm like, okay, well, we're now having a dinner date for 3.
Oh yeah, let's go to the bathroom.
Because that's the other piece. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I don't have time right now, or like, I'm doing something weird. Like, you're like, okay, well, you're coming with me to training, or you're like, you're doing this thing, or you just have to stop what you're doing and see them, which is totally fair. But I just think a lot of people maybe don't understand that about the system. They can show up at any time. Totally. I've had them show up at 11 o'clock at night. I've had them show up at 5:30 in the morning. Like,
there's pieces to maybe an imperfect system where there's a lot of people working hard to make it as good as possible for the effort of clean and fair sport. But within that, there are certainly challenges, and you've had to sort of face a real downside to those challenges where all of the stars aligned in exactly the wrong way. But you have been a huge advocate and you've played a really important role with USADA in switching to a new updating system within the past couple of years. And during this period of time for you,
and trying to make that updating system better.
Yeah, you've been a huge advocate, not only for yourself, for all athletes working in this system to make it better, easier, smoother. And I think that's really cool, because you could have been like, this is, playing the card of this is unfair for my career. But instead you've taken it and you've worked with USADA hand in hand to make it better.
Yeah. I've tried to.
Yeah. And that's a really cool way to handle it. And it shows a mentality that you have that is, I think, a reason why you're world champion. Girl, do you know that you're downhill world champion? Did you know that? Sometimes I wonder. Does Breezy know?
Told me that one time. I think it was you.
Did anybody tell you that you're downhill world champion? Like, people need to, for the world listening to this, or for anyone listening to this, hopefully there's people listening to this, downhill world champion. That's one of the most coveted accolades. That's one of the most coveted accomplishments in our sport. And you've had the sanction, you've had injuries, you've had several injuries. And the last injury, and this timeline, like, I went and looked it up, and you're going to just have to correct me.
She's going backwards. It's fine.
The last injury you had, I'm going backwards, blah, blah, blah. You crashed in Cortina in downhill training. And this was in 2022. This was the year leading up to the Olympics, 2022 games. And you sustained an injury. And I remember you like fighting to make it work and coming to the realization, this isn't going to work. And then you couldn't go to the Olympics. And that was that's very emotional. That's a really hard, because the fact is it's not a decision. It's you had a long multi-year recovery from this injury, but that's a devastating thing. And you had written a really incredible post. We don't really have time for me to read the whole thing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. I love the sport of ski racing. I wanted so badly to realize my dream of becoming an Olympic champion, to bask in the glow of that sunset. But the reality is the risks are always there. They're no longer worth it. This sport is brutal. Someone asked me yesterday why we do it. And at times like these, you wonder. But the truth is, for me, that feeling of racing is the feeling of being truly alive. And I have shivers right now. So I will keep coming back every time, because that feeling of skiing fast is worth everything. Luckily, I've been a fan of ski racing since I was a little kid. So while I always wanted to win an Olympic gold medal, I have a lot of other goals in ski racing, goals that I can work on for the next 4 years before I return, hopefully, to that hill that stole this Olympic dream for me for another shot at that gold medal, 2026, baby. This was an incredible summary of a lot of the emotions we experience as ski racers. And Cortina 2026 is coming this year. And you are downhill world champion. You achieved that this season. After all of this.
That was one of those goals that I was mentioning in there.
Yeah, I'm sure that was.
I've been accomplishing some of the goals that I was working on.
Well, quite a few, but that is a big one. And that must have felt so satisfying and amazing and relieving and all of the things. That's a question. I think that doesn't sound like a question.
Yeah. No, you're good. I think that a lot of people can, I think, relate to this, that you love skiing so much. It feels like a person in your life, and you're like, things that I love this much, feel almost sentient. They feel like they should love you back. Right. And the reality is that skiing is not that, which is hard to sort of grapple with sometimes, because you're like, I love it so much. How does it just not care about me? And there's nobody that you can talk to that, to explain that or fight about that with. And so that's a really hard part of ski racing. But we do love it. And it is, I think, you can relate, that perfect turn when you pull those things off, when you get down and you're like, I just gave everything I had at this incredibly difficult sport, and it pays off. It's really euphoric. But yeah, my journey in 2022 was really rough, because I felt like I was on top of the world. I had podiumed in the first 3 World Cups of the season. I was training in early January and I crashed and I tore my ACL. And not everybody knows that or realizes that, but it was at that point 4 weeks to the games. I'm a pretty good coper. I didn't even realize that I had torn it at first. And against some doctors' advice, with some doctors' support, I was like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep skiing and try to give this a go. And then I did the first training run in Cortina. I was 4th in the first training run in Cortina. I was like, okay, I can totally do this. I can still do this at this level. I don't have an ACL, but I can still do this. And then I went off of that jump wrong and crashed really hard. And like sort of obliterated a lot of the cartilage and meniscus in my knee, in addition to still having a torn ACL that was still torn. And I was like, okay, like, and I get that there are people, they're like, why would you keep going after you tore an ACL? And I understand like athletes that would have thrown in the towel in early January, like totally get that. And there are also other athletes that are like, oh, I totally understand, like continuing, like the Olympics is on the line. Like you can do this. And that was my choice. And that was like why I'm like, the risks are no longer worth it. Like I increased the risks. I paid an even higher price. Like I can't just keep ratcheting things up forever. Like I think it's too far at this point. And I spent a year rehabbing that injury. I came back, but I was still struggling really hard with it. And it's been a journey with that. And I think that injuries are a horrible, horrible part of this sport. And I think, there's also something to be said for like, I left Cortina in 2022 and I was like, I don't know how I am going to like find the mental space where I can like win a gold medal on this hill. And I think you probably know some of that too, because Cortina has bit you in the ass a little bit as well. Cortina is hard too, because everybody loves Cortina. So it's similar to ski racing. You're like, I love this hill so much. Like, how does it not love me back? And you struggle with that. That's very human. But
I love the place. I love the views. But it is, grappling with how it doesn't love. That's such a great way to put it. Like, I've given you everything. Why can't you just give me something?
Exactly. Yeah,
totally.
It's a difficult piece. And
how do you,
we deal with that all the time. So
absolutely. every single day you're like, well, this just man. I'd love for you to talk about your own perspective of kind of you're already touching on it a little bit, but sort of fear, with injuries, with the mental side of the sport, between injuries, between long days in the gym, isolating periods of time. Like you mentioned that you were rehabbing from this injury for a year, really more, but like you came back to competing and whatnot. And it's kind of a constant improvement phase, but rehabbing for a year, your sanction was 14 months. Let's focus this question. What were sort of the differences in like injury rehab periods of time away from the sport where you're physically unable to do it, but like it's there, but then the sanction where you are physically able to do it, but not allowed to have contact with the national governing bodies, the system that's supposed to be there to support you. In the injuries, you have that support in theory, and with the sanction, you're not allowed to have access to that support. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. So there's two different sides, like for sure. So like injury is tough because we're used to like operating with our body at a high level. And then suddenly like that's taken away from us and we feel very out of control, right? I think elite athletes, like the thought is that elite athletes love to win. And I would push back on that. I would say that elite athletes love to have the ability to win. We don't necessarily need to be able to win, but we want to feel like that's in our power and our grasp. Like part of what we love about the sport is that anything can happen. And that's what makes like winning valuable. But we want to have that power in our grasp. And when we're injured, we do not have that power. You don't have any control of your body or your life or your finances start to get out of control and things like that. And that's really the huge challenge with injury. The challenge that happened for me with the sanction was that WADA and USADA. And again, I understand this. I'm not trying to vilify them, but they sort of use almost a form of psychological torture with these sanctions, which is that they hold over your head that if you can't train with anybody from your team, interacting with people from your team could result in them getting a suspension, because there's a rule that people who are suspended are not allowed to support like existing athletes. And that exists because sometimes coaches get suspended, and I understand why when they're involved in doping scandals. And then they need a way to keep athletes from continuing to train with those coaches. And so they have a rule about like, you know, supporting coaching athletes that are existing. So you feel incredibly isolated because you can't receive support from anybody, and you also can't give support to anybody. And so you almost feel like you can't like talk to anybody without like putting them at huge risk. And that was incredibly isolating. And then they also like make you sign these things that make you feel like you've committed a crime. And again, I understand why they do that, but it is brutal, and it really makes you feel like they are like, crawl away from this sport, you piece of, and you don't deserve to be anywhere near these like clean athletes that exist. And I'm like, I totally understand that, but like, wait a second, like I did an administrative error, and I feel like this could have happened to anyone, and it happened to happen to me, and I understand that, but like I feel like this tiny speck of garbage, and and so the thing that has always got me through all of that are people. And the people that reached out to me that were like, you know, the athletes that said that they had missed tests, the athletes that rehab with you, those people like give you connection, and they make you feel
human,
supported, and they're really like, human. Like they make you feel like you're going to get through things. They like, that's like really like was huge for me. And like for me, like I went to Switzerland and was training with people in Switzerland, and to hear from foreign athletes that like I didn't know, that were like, I've been through this, I understand. This was during my period of suspension. I was training in Switzerland, and like to have people that were not from my country, that didn't really know me, coming up to me and being like I don't think that you're dirty,
relating,
like,
and connecting,
because your reputation is also huge in sport. Like I want to inspire little kids, and I felt like my reputation was ruined, and that I had like messed up on such a huge level that I like didn't deserve to have fans, and to have fans and, you know, competitors and everybody like reaching out to me and saying like, no, we still like think that you're like worthy of support, we are still rooting for you, like was really the only thing that like got me through the suspension. And then the people that rehabbed with me, the people that show up every day, the PTs and so on, is like also what got me through. I mean, it's kind of crazy because like with my suspension, like we advocated for and got, thankfully, the first ever basically like carve out where USADA and WADA agreed that I could continue to receive mental health support from the USOPC while I was under like ineligibility, because my psychologist works for the USOPC. And I was like, it felt like from the beginning, like them saying like, well, this is because in the beginning they were like, no, you can't, like they're part of the USOPC, that's support from the USOPC. And I was like, it sort of feels like you're telling me to go kill myself. And I don't think that that's what they intended, but that's what I felt. And so that was the first ever time that we got a mental health carve out in like a suspension agreement. And that was like crazy to me, because I was like, I understand that athletes have messed up, but like having mental health support, having like a guide for them, I think is huge in making sure that, you know, like they still have something and some reason to like either keep going or like keep from straying farther off of the path or etc. Like, and that was pretty crazy to me to hear that I was like the first person that ever got like a mental health carve out.
I did not know that. I mean, the mental health resources were just at the tip of the iceberg of understanding how much they need to be, those resources need to be there for all humans, not only athletes, but definitely for athletes. And that I did not know that. Wow. That's incredible. Did you feel like you learned any particular lessons in self-advocacy or in a way, because you've always been very self-aware. I feel like you've always had a very strong sense of self from my perspective, but having to really run your own program and manage your own time in a way beyond what has been there before, not having the support of, not being able to access the support of the team because of the situation, and really having to fully take on your own schedule and time and training. Do you feel like that has actually potentially led to you becoming a stronger competitor, or is that not even related?
I mean, I don't say that like I'm grateful for what happened, but I did learn things. I think like running my own program did make me feel like, so I like ran my own dry land that summer. Like I raised money and like created a system around me with the support of the coach that I hired, Stifel. And so like being able to do that does give you like a power and a sense of like, okay, like, you know, even basic things like if I move away from where I am, like I know that I'm going to be able to like figure out my own training program. This summer we've had issues because we hired a strength coach, but then he can't get in because he doesn't have a visa. And so he can't work with us. And so we've been struggling with that. And I'm like, this is fine because I know how to write my own programs and I've done this and I feel like confident in that, even though it's an Olympic season. So those pieces, I do think I learned something, but I do not say that I'm grateful for what happened. I'm not saying that you were, but that is like, I'm like, I learned things. That doesn't mean that I am like grateful for it.
No, if you could go back, you would change it every single time. You would make it not exist, but there are somehow some kind of takeaways. It's called, well, I've learned it from sort of the grief side of things, but it's called post-traumatic growth syndrome, which is like this weird sort of thing.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. I would never go back and do this again that way, but there are experiences that I've had and lessons I've learned that I would have never learned if this didn't happen. And it's like coming to terms with that those two things can exist. Breezy Johnson, what is the point? And what I mean by that is the reason I'm doing this podcast. I've wrestled with the concept of what's the point of why we do what we do? Why do you love what you love? You've talked about this a little bit, but why are you a ski racer?
I think there's two reasons. I think one, I think you can probably appreciate this, like that feeling of going fast. I feel like you're using 100% of your body and 100% of your brain. Ski racing is a very intellectual sport. It takes a lot of like thinking about how you're going to figure out a line and adjusting that depending on how fast you're going. And that really takes like a lot of brain power. And then it's also super athletic. You're using a lot of your body. And so I find that like combination, like the feeling of living. And so that's reason one why I do it. And reason two is because the community of ski racing and the community of people that understand that feeling of living and the people that you do it with is really incredible. And so I do believe in friends on a powder day and a training day. And so those are the two reasons that I do it.
That's incredible. Are there any special projects or goals or anything else you'd like to share? Anybody you'd like to plug? I know that you've done a lot of work with Coombs Outdoors. Do you want to talk about Is there anything that you would like to talk about before we finish?
For sure. I think that I think that everybody should go out and donate to their local, group that gives kids access to skiing. Coombs Outdoors is what does it in Jackson Hole. There's Share Winter Foundation, which helps find people nationwide, and they give grants to places like Coombs Outdoors and others. So they're always a great option. But because I believe in that community, believe in sharing the sport of ski racing, and I don't think that we should gatekeep it. I think we should encourage as many people as possible to get to experience the sport. And then the other piece that I'll plug that I have no idea exactly, we're in early stages, but at the last games, it didn't end up happening, but I did a helmet design competition prior to the games where people could design my helmet for the Olympics. And I really want to do that again. So keep an eye out on my Instagram page. I don't know when this is going to be coming out, but it'll probably be in December. We'll figure out. And yeah, so keep an eye out for that.
Perfect timing.
And yeah.
That's so exciting. Everybody, please keep your eyes and ears open for Breezy Johnson's Olympic helmet design competition. This is going to be amazing. You have to take a look at like previous helmets she's had. They're all spectacular. So only the best will do.
Yeah.
Breezy, thank you so much for doing this with me and chatting. And I am just cheering for you every single second of the way.
Yeah, I'm cheering for you too. I think I don't know, our team dynamics are really great. And I think that it's awesome that it's
pretty awesome.
Got
some cool people.
Great group of girls right now. Yeah, we have cool people to share it with. And maybe that's why I love the people of the sport so much, because we have such cool people on this team.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Good luck with all of your training. Just want to send a huge shout out to Stifel for all of their support. And for those of you who don't know, Stifel became a title sponsor of the US ski team in 2022. And this year, we actually celebrated a decade of fundraising for the now Stifel US ski team, raising nearly $1.4 million in the annual fundraiser. Stifel's interest in helping us to grow the visibility of our snow sports has been absolutely pivotal for our team. And I really can't thank them enough.